What is up, Goat World? Arts and Crofts here, once again bringing you some in-depth Goat Format War League playoff coverage. If you caught yesterday's video, you know that we are right in the middle of coverage of the remaining wildcard round between defending champions R.I.C.O Act and 10 seed Carbombnara, fighting for the right to qualify for the remaining spot in the quarterfinals. Now, last week for the feature match, we watched Carbombnara's andend defeat R.I.C.O Act's Ivan Rossito in a Panda Burn versus Chaos Turbo matchup. Now, andend was the only player from Carbombnara who won, which means that it is now basically all up to them to keep Carbombnara's hopes alive in the playoffs because they will have to solo the entire team of R.I.C.O Act. So you can see here the Wave 2 pairings. Out of all of the players, all the remaining players from R.I.C.O who won their original match, they would have to pick one player to go face off on andend. Now, importantly, players' decks are locked in after Wave 1, so everyone knows that andend will be playing Panda Burn, which gives R.I.C.O a lot of options for how they want to approach and try and knock them out. For Wave 2 here, they decided to go with their number 1 ranked player, Moxies, who did run a warrior list in Wave 1, so that's a pretty decent matchup into Panda Burn. But you can see here they still have 4 other potential options to run into andend if Moxies were to fail at this Wave 2 attempt. So I did do some scouting of both of the players' decks. Moxies here, like I mentioned, did run their patented warrior list in the previous match. They played it against Earth Aggro, so a lot of the cards that we saw come out of the side deck were a lot of like anti-aggro stuff, Smashing Ground, potentially some Sakuretsu Armors, Book of Moons, Zombiras, even Green Kappa, which I guess has a little bit of utility against Burn as well. But they play a lot of chainables, so not sure if that's on Moxie's roadmap to bring in against a Burn list. But overall, relatively standard warrior stuff here with some interesting tech choices in the side that we got to see. Main deck, though, of course, is pretty standard. Just with all of the general warrior good stuff monsters, lots of the standard rota targets. Interested to see exactly what their game plan against Panda Burn specifically will be. Now, andend here, pull them up. Like I said, they did run Panda Burn, and their list is a little bit interesting. So if you recall my team profiles last video, I did mention that R.I.C.O Act does like to bring a lot of Chaos Turbo to the War League. And so andend here built like a pretty interesting anti turbo burn list essentially, where they're main decking 3 spies to allow them to main deck double mind control, which is a very, very strong card against Chaos Turbo. And so by playing spies, which is kind of an optional card in burn, it allows you to get more value off of the mind con if you're able to mind con the opponent's Gravekeeper spy and then search up one of your own. So pretty interesting take on the Panda Burn strategy from andend here. A little bit of an anti-Chaos Turbo bent, which is why I think R.I.C.O probably sent out a non-Chaos Turbo list here. If you check Moxies is on Warrior, they have Geisty on Chaos Control, which is not a great matchup into Burn. And the other 3 players are on Chaos Turbo, which andend built their deck specifically to beat based on what we saw in the match against Ivan. So Moxies definitely is kind of a no-brainer here to send out against andend, I guess. And honestly, if andend's able to beat Moxies, obviously winning 4 matches in a row after that is going to be quite difficult, but at least it could be some favorable matchups for them going into either strategies that they specifically prepped against or Chaos Control, which is just generally a good matchup for Panda Burn. So this feels like a pretty pivotal match maybe in this series if andend is able to get the win, because then it'll, actually has a relatively clear path to victory, even if it will, require a decent amount of luck to not drop a single game. So yeah, those are the lists there. Besides that, relatively standard Panda Burn, they are running a Desert Sunlight in the main deck, and they're on Giant Rat. Not every Panda list likes to run rats, but they definitely are on that strategy there. Like I said, played against Chaos Turbo in round 1. A lot of this stuff is probably in the main deck, but they do have Kaiku ready to go in the side. Maybe you don't bring that in against Warrior specifically because they don't play as many Chaos monsters. But, we've got the Swords, we've got Mirror Force, lots of good stuff potentially against Warrior. So let's hop right into this. As always, the player positions have been randomized as to not spoil the outcome. But we're going to hop right in from here. Looks like andend won the RPS and will be able to go first. That seems pretty important. in this matchup, I think, and they're going to lead out with a Pot of Greed, so already a really solid start. Going up a card, going to be really, really happy about that. Gonna go set a monster, set 4 back row, so pretty scary when Burn is just able to dump their hand on the field. Really early on like this, you have to assume there's at least like an Ojama Trio and a bunch of chainable desserts and secret barrels and things like that. Pot of Greed, of course, being huge for Burn to get them the critical mass of cards that they need in order to, just kill the opponent. Moxies, of course, playing an aggressive warrior strategy, will be able to clock andend a lot faster than like a standard Chaos Turbo list would, which is why it's kind of stylistically a nice matchup for warrior. They also naturally play a lot of like back row removal and stuff like that and ways to deal with set monsters more than a standard like Chaos Turbo list. But andend here off to a very solid start. Going first, opening pot, and just kind of vomiting their hand onto the field is kind of exactly what you want to do as the Burn player in this matchup. Moxies here. Heavy Storm can make it interesting, depending on what andend chose to play. But we're going to lead off with a Reinforcement of the Army. Exiled Force, a decent choice here to just deal with the set monster. Could also grab like Blade Knight or Mystic Swordsman. Moxies is going to go for the Mystic Swordsman, so a little bit more aggressive of a choice. It does lose to Battle Traps compared to like an Exiled Force. But if you have like a Nobleman of Crossout in hand, I like going for the little bit more aggressive play with the Mystic Swordsman because then you still just have the backup plan of the knock if you need it. So we're going to go ahead, summon that Mystic Swordsman, set a bunch of back row, I guess in case it is a Morphing Jar, although that probably doesn't matter too much. Oh, I guess in case there's Desert Sunlight, right? We know andend is maining Desert Sunlight, so setting a bunch of stuff to play around Desert Sunlight on a Morphing Jar definitely makes sense here. Gonna go beat in, and it is gonna be Desert Sunlight, flipping up a giant rat. Oh, okay, interesting. So Mystic Swordsman is gonna still plus here, eliminating the card advantage from the Pot of Greed, but the rat will stay alive to wall out the Mystic Swordsman. Swordsman's effect only kills set monsters, so the Desert Sunlight is just going to flip it face up, so the effect can't trigger. Still going to be a +1 for Moxies, but not going to be able to deal any damage, so andend's still probably pretty happy about that, if I had to guess. Just going to pass there. A little bit of a stalemate at this point in time. Well, I guess andend could just swap this rat to attack and beat over the Mystic Swordsman. That seems like a pretty decent play, absent any other thing you can do. Gonna go fire off Graceful Charity, so double Trinity really early on. Usually the only 2 Trinity that Burn plays as well, so definitely happy to see those. Gonna filter the hand a little bit, see what they choose to discard. It's gonna be a Gravekeeper Spy and a level limit Area B. Alright, level limit hitting the grave, maybe signifying they already have another Battle Floodgate. Of course, it clashes with the giant rat you have on the field as well, so maybe a little bit of anti-synergy, of course. Spy hitting the grave as well, maybe they have another copy of it. Or they just like the other cards in the hand better. Let's see what the play is, though. We're going to go Secret Barrel. Okay, so this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 1200 damage. I have to assume we're going to be chaining an Ojama Trio to this, most likely. 2 Secret Barrels, okay. And then show me the trio. No, okay, so it's just going to be double Secret Barrel. So like I said, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So just 2400 damage. 1200 damage a Secret Barrel is really not anything to write home about. So Moxie's probably pretty happy about that, but maybe... I guess one of the other reasons why Burn is so good, or why Warrior is so good into Panda Burn, is that Warrior is just going to like go 1-for-1 trade forever. They're not just going to naturally have like stalemate boards where both players draw up to 1,000,000 cards and Secret Barrel becomes really good. Warrior is all about initiating 1-to-1 trades and simplifying the game state. So maybe just going for a 1200 damage Secret Barrel is kind of the best you can hope to get in these sorts of games. I'm of course not a Burn expert, but I can definitely understand being more willing to accept some subpar, rates for your desserts and your Secret Barrels in this matchup because it's pretty likely Warrior isn't going to allow you to like get close to max value from those. Either way, Moxies will drop down to 50 life points. Well, then andend is going to fire off the Heavy Storm. So maybe you're fine getting the below rate Secret Barrels in a world where you just want a Heavy Storm to clear out the board. And maybe we got like Panda or something to come through. Moxie is going to chain Dust Tornado on the other back row. It is going to be a Just Desserts, which will just go in for 500. So andend saying, you know what, I'm just going to get below rate damage for all 3 of my Burn cards, but maybe setting up for something really big here with this Heavy Storm to make it all worth it. Moxies is going to chain Jar of Greed as well to reduce some of the card advantage, hit there. But when the dust kind of settles, andend is actually in a pretty solid spot. In terms of just raw card advantage, right? They can just Giant Rat kill the Mystic Swordsman. They'll be up a card. Moxies will be pretty low on life. So, yeah, things pretty good for andend at this point in time. Ooh, and we got Injection Fairy Lily coming down as well for a ton of damage. Is this just game? Not yet. Very, very close, though. Rat over the Mystic Swordsman plus Lily for 3,400. And now andend gets to pass with lethal on board. Double lethal on board here. Either monster could kill. And yeah, it was a really nice play there from andend, recognizing that if they could force through this heavy storm, they could get in for a ton of combat damage, so they can afford to get below rate damage from their trap cards, and now set up for a simplified game state, which normally would favor Warrior, but when you have Rat and Lily on the field, this might just be too much for Moxies to deal with. Gonna set a back row here as well. Ceasefire is game, if they have that. Secret Barrel, not exactly game, but very close. And Moxies is going to go set a monster, set a couple back row pass, and Ceasefire for game, as I just said. And that's going to be a very, very quick game one going over there to andend. So getting off to a great start here in what is likely a decently unfavorable matchup. Just had an absolute, monster opening here with the Heavy Storm to clear the way for this Lily. And yeah, I mean, Lily is just an insane card in burn if you can set up for it with some of these, board simplifiers. Opening double Trinity or taking 2 turns to hit both of your Trinity pieces helps as well, of course. But overall, really well played there from andend, and we will go to a early game 2. Moxies will be able to go first here on this Warrior list. Really excited to see what they choose to bring in from the side against Panda Burn, if they were prepped for it at all. If you caught the last video, we do know that Carbombnara is one of those teams that likes to just bring a bunch of, or at least threatens to bring a bunch of niche strategies. So I would have to assume that R.I.C.O did their prep and was, ready for some stuff, and they didn't just not worry about the burn matchup at all. But we will see exactly what Moxies here is loading up for the specific matchup. I'm gonna go normal summon Kaiku. Okay, so keeping Kaiku in against burn, I mean, sometimes you might just not have enough stuff to cut. And it is just a beater, which is nice because you are, the beatdown in this matchup. The effects don't really do too much, but sometimes just, an 1800 vanilla is fine. Decent monster to just throw out as your turn 1 normal summon as well, because you don't really care if it dies. Andend here, let's see what the plan is. Gonna go Breaker the Magical Warrior. Age-old question, do you kill the Kaiku, pop a back row, or do you pop a back row and cower in fear against this Kaiku? And then is going to go pop a back row first, hitting a Dust Tornado. Okay, so getting a little plus there, but now threatening to just lose to this Kaiku, of course. And andend is going to preempt that by firing off a Swords of Revealing Light, just to stall things out here while they try and find an out to that Kaiku. And nicely clearing out some back row removal to make the swords more likely to stick around. And a couple more back row as well. A little bit of a stalemate here at the time being. Moxies has to wait out the swords unless they have some more back row removal ready to go. We're going to get Jar of Greed to try and dig for some of that stuff. Not bad. And we are going to activate Ojama Trio on resolution, filling up 3 of the remaining 4 monster zones here for Moxies, making it a little bit harder for them to go wide and get aggressive, and of course, natural synergies with a lot of cards in the burn list. So being able to resolve an Ojama Trio is always nice if you are the burn player. Moxies here has Graceful Charity, all right, so Game 1 lost the Trinity battle, but winning it so far here in Game 2. Definitely pretty happy about that. Warrior, of course, doesn't always have easy discards. Ooh, but we do see the green Kappa. Nice. So wasn't sure exactly if that was going to come in against Burn. Back row removal, I guess, is probably just so good that even if you might not always have, super good targets for it, it's still probably worth it. You can also, snag a Gravity Bind, maybe, as well. Not everything in the burn list is chainable. Green Kappa is going to hit the grave, as well as Morphing Jar. Okay, so Moxie's siding into the flip stuff here. Morphing Jar is an interesting choice, because I feel like Jars resolving are so good for the burn player generally, but maybe the idea is as Warrior going first, if you just open Morphing Jar, you can set up for a really, really strong one, and catch the burn player kind of on the back foot and get a ton of value from this. Not going to see it this game, of course, because it's going to get discarded to Graceful Charity, but I can understand how it could have some uses, even if intuitively it's probably not a card you always want to have resolve against a burn player. We got Heavy Storm here as well. Nice little twofer. hitting Torrential Tribute and the Sword, so two very powerful defensive cards. Leaving the field, and now the stalemate is broken. Kaiku can start getting in for some value, plus any extra monsters Moxies might have in hand. Thinking here, big think. All right, we're going to go ahead. Tribe Infecting Virus. Okay, not only is this another good beater to clear, to add in a little bit of extra pressure when you're up a bunch of cards, it also will clear out these Ojama tokens, making a lot of end-ends potential draws a lot worse, like Panda and Just Desserts. We're going to go Tribe, discard Mirror Force. Okay. Likely calling Beast to clear out all the tokens. Calling Spellcaster to kill Breaker would be nice, but you have a Kaiku on the field as collateral damage, so definitely not worth it. Moxies will take 900 damage from those tokens being discarded, but that's definitely better than allowing Andend to set up for some crazy Panda plays. Kaiku can beat over the Breaker, and Tribe will get in for the full 1600 damage. So really, really nice turn there for Moxies. Up several cards here. Hasn't really taken too much damage to speak of. And now has a pretty quick clock on the opponent, and then is going to have to scramble to try and find one of their battle floodgates. Otherwise, this will be over quite quickly. We're going to set a back row here as well. Andend is going to go activate level limit area B. Okay, so they do have a battle floodgate to make up for the fact that their swords just got killed. So things might grind to a halt here for Moxies unless they have an out to this. Breaker of their own would be really nice, or another copy of Dust Tornado. We're going to get end phase MST on the face down back row. Okay, so I feel like this signifies that they have another out to level limit. Maybe that Breaker, like I just said, would be really nice. MST is going to go pop a Bluff Set Giant Shrunade. Interesting. Okay. But just clearing the way, making sure that whatever this play on their coming turn is will be nice. Like I said, Breaker goes insane. Yep, Moxie's going to slam down that Breaker. Really nicely played here. Just having, Graceful Charity helped, of course, but having Dust, Breaker, Green Kappa, Heavy Storm, and Mystical Space Typhoon all in the opening, 12 cards of your deck is really, really nice against Burn. That's what I was saying last game. Warrior kind of naturally just has a critical mass of backer removal, so especially post side, when they can even bring in extra ones, it's really, really hard for Burn to stay sticky with these battle floodgates. So you really have to win a lot faster and play a lot more aggressive as the Burn player against Warrior than you would against other matchups, because you just can't really rely on these battle floodgates. And now this is going to be even more damage coming through. Breaker, of course, can't attack because it got turned to defense by the level limit before it left the field. But clearing things up for the Tribe and the Kaiku to get in for big damage once again. Kaiku can even banish the Breaker for fun. Not really going to do too much. Although Burn sometimes does play like Call of the Haunted and stuff, so might as well do it. And just going to pass turn now with Lethal on board. Yeah, just a really insane sequence of draws here for Moxies. And then looking like quick work here, unless they find like a Gravity Bind or something. Gonna be a couple back row set. Okay, so Gravity Bind is on the table. Moxies, you probably just send it here. Mirror Force could ruin your day, so maybe you don't send all of the monsters. Yeah, keep the Breaker in defense. Kaiku gets in for 18, Tribe for 16, and that is just a nice quick game too. All right, so Moxies, you can see when the Warrior deck can find its critical mass of back or removal, Burn definitely struggles, but Andend will be able to go first here in Game 3, which we saw them use to pretty good effect in Game 1. And this is now Andend's tournament life, Carbombnara's tournament life here. If they lose this game, they are out of the tournament. If Andend wins, then they will have to continue on and continue to work their way through the remaining players of the R.I.C.O roster, but this is going to be a very, very impactful game. And an opening Pot of Greed, really nice with your tournament life on the line, going +1 already. And we're going to go set a monster with a couple back row, already up a card. We saw this in Game 1, and then use this to great effect to win. So Moxies might be shaking in their boots here a little bit. Moxies does have a DD Warrior Lady, which is quite nice. Just a solid all-around card with some decent utility against Burn. Set some back row in case Morphing Jar or Desk Koala is something you have to worry about. We're going to go attack into the set monster. And then has a Magic Cylinder. Neat! Okay, don't always see that. It makes the cut in most Burn lists, though. But Cylinder here is going to not only reflect 1,500 points of damage back at Moxies, but it will also keep their set monster alive if it is, like, I don't know, I mean, I guess what would you want to protect here? Jars, you're fine just letting resolve. Maybe you want to keep your koalas alive. Maybe it's like a big shield gardener. Either way, we might not find out unless Moxies has a knock here in main phase 2. They do not. And andend using the cylinder not just for damage, but to protect their board. And we'll see if that pays off here. We're going to go set another monster with a back row and just pass. Okay, so maybe didn't care too much about keeping this one around. Or maybe now saying, okay, now I have 2 targets for this DD Warrior Lady to worry about. So that's fine. Maybe just using Magic Cylinder as like a tempo play there. You did have a card to spare with that Pot of Greed anyway, so it's like a free 1,500 points of damage, I guess. Um, and then still in a slight lead here, Moxies is going to have the end phase Dust Tornado to pop a back row, hitting your Gravity Bind. Okay, that's really nice. So, you know, generally the knowledge or the common knowledge when you play Burn is you do want to all other things equal save your back row removal for the battle floodgates. We saw Moxies didn't need to do that last game. They could just freely pop stuff in end phase willy-nilly because they just had so much back row removal in, you know, their opening few turns. So maybe firing off this Invade Dust Tornado signifying that they have plenty of other back removal as well. But if not, got a little bit lucky there hitting the Battle Floodgate, which is what you want to be hitting regardless. So nice snipe there, showing the value of these additional Dust Tornadoes if Moxie's had some to side in. Going to draw for turn. Definitely interesting choice here. 2 monsters to potentially attack with the DD Warrior Lady. And then chose to protect this one, the middle one, on their last turn, but then didn't flip it up or anything. So I wonder what that means it could be. Moxie's going to add a little bit more pressure here as well with this Kaiku coming down. So could potentially wipe out all of Endend's board here. DD Warrior Lady's going to attack the middle one. Is a Gravekeeper Spy. Okay, so yeah, I think Magic Cylinder there was just a little bit of a tempo play. Moxie is probably unlikely to DD Warrior Lady banish these. Unless you just really want to make sure you get the damage through here. And yeah, just going to let it go through. So, and then, yeah, just using the cylinder as a little bit of a tempo play, I guess. Kaiku will go ahead and crash into a Cypher Soldier. No damage dealt to either player. But the Kinetic Soldier is going to be pretty nice. I mean, I guess if you're Moxies, you probably just need to clear that out ASAP with this DD Warrior Lady. You know, the anti-warrior card in the format. So, want to deal with that as quickly as possible. But Andend has, like, created a pretty formidable board here. Double Spy here. You know, Spy, it ruins Warriors' days when it resolves against Chaos Turbo, so I feel like it's especially bad against Burn when it, once again, like I talked about in the last video, it acts as another Battle Floodgate. Just that 2,000 defense can really wall out a lot of decks in the format, which is why it's such a commonly played card. And in a Burn strategy where, especially against Warrior, when sometimes they might just have enough back row to deal with your Gravity Binds and your level limits, it's nice to have some redundancy there with these spies. And then is just in a really nice stalemate position here, which will very much favor them as the Burn player. Moxie's going to add another back row, but in a really bad spot here if they can't. Really needs to find like a tribe infecting virus or something to just blow up everything. Otherwise, Andend is going to be sitting pretty. And I'm going to draw for turn. Interestingly, gonna go. I mean, I guess this would be a nice bit of damage if it resolves, even if it's a 1-for-1 trade, and maybe Andend is kind of fine with that because they still have the spies as defense. So looking to just clear out this DD Warrior Lady, protect their spies a little bit, sacking their Kinetic Soldier just for some big damage here. See if Moxies let this through. They're gonna Book of Moon the Kinetic Soldier. Okay, a little bit unfortunate for Moxies, but doesn't want to take that massive amount of damage, or maybe valuing their DD Warrior Lady's life. However, this will just be a -1 unless Moxies has something else to beat over this Kinetic Soldier. Are we just going to like turn DD Warrior Lady to defense? Is that the idea? Or maybe maybe Moxies wants to attack into it with the DD Warrior Lady so that it doesn't get the big... no, but it still gets it powers up its defense as well against warrior monsters. So yeah, this is just kind of a straight -1. Doesn't really save you too much damage unless you have another way of dealing with the Kinetic Soldier. A little bit rough, and Moxie's already making seemingly some desperate plays. Just because Andend kind of has them backed into a corner here right now. Yeah, really, really good start to the Burn players' strategy. Gonna add another set monster, another back row. End phase Dust Tornado from Moxies will hit a Torrential Tribute. Honestly, kind of a bait there from Andend, so probably pretty happy about that. Torrential, not something that you're going to use in this exact scenario. Moxies maybe would have wanted to hold on to that one. Gonna draw for turn, though. Gonna set a monster. Okay, and the play was we are going to prevent as much kinetic damage as possible by going ahead and turning this DD Warrior Lady defense. That is definitely an option. And here is going to go Giant Trunade. Okay, so setting up for something big here potentially. This will resolve. No back row here. And end if you have pandas, if you have lilies, I mean, you can go flip up this kinetic soldier. Things could get pretty scary here. We're going to go set a couple back row, and we're going to snatch seal the DD Warrior Lady. So finding a way to deal with this Kaiku, perhaps, could be kind of nice. We're just going to go turn everything to attack position, flip up the third spy. What a board here. Triple spy, a snatch seal DD Warrior Lady, and a kinetic soldier. Feels like a warrior player's worst nightmare, honestly. And Moxies doesn't have a lot of defense here. Burn player hasn't resolved a single burn card outside of the magic cylinder this game, and they might just do it all with attack damage. Interesting to see. Okay, who do you attack the set monster with, I guess? DD Warrior Lady is the only monster that can get over this Kaiku, so this is mandatory, and you do that first, I guess, in case you run into, like, I guess, in case you run into Cyberjar. Banish both of them. Nice. So a nice little 2-for-1 with the Snatch Steal. You just traded Snatch for 2 of your opponent's monsters. And now I guess you send the kinetic into the set monster and hope it's like Morphing Jar, maybe. That's what we'll do. It's a set Blade Knight. Wow, okay, so Moxie's getting a little bit cute there. But unfortunately, andend found the time to get aggressive here with that Giant Trunade. It'll just die to the Kinetic Soldier. And now we have triple Gravekeeper Spy coming in for 3,600 points of damage. Looks like a Chaos Turbo versus Warrior match here, honestly. But these, you can see how valuable these spies can be, even in a burn list, because you just get so many attack points on the board so quickly, which, you know, burn players will definitely enjoy. Moxie's now down to 2,400 life points, down a ton in cards. That's another thing, right? And then had the Pot of Greed. They forced out the -1 with that Book of Moon. They had the Snatch Steal 2-for-1. Like, this has just been an actual like grind game being won here as the burn player, and Moxies is so far behind now. So many monsters have been getting killed. They still haven't dealt with this kinetic soldier. Even if they can kill one of these spies because they're in attack position, there's 2 others to wall out to allow andend to draw into more burn cards. Not looking good here for the warrior champion. Just gonna set a couple back row pass. Andend, like I said, has lethal on board though. Just gonna go send everything in. And that is just GG, and there you have it. Andend keeping their life on the line here. Moxie's able to force a game 3, but Carbombnara's playoff hopes, you know, every time Andend wins, coming a little bit closer to being a little bit worrying here for R.I.C.O. So, yeah, that is a nice little 2-1 victory for Andend, keeping their team alive. So Moxies is now eliminated, and R.I.C.O will have to decide between Ever, Purple Drunk, Geisty, and Don't Copy as the players to send out here. So now it's a 4-1 scenario for R.I.C.O. Still probably going to be good for R.I.C.O here, of course. It's unlikely that andend can win 4 on the bounce. But, like I said before, Moxies on Warrior was definitely the most favored matchup here. So it's a little bit of an easier road ahead for andend going forward. So definitely, you know, tomorrow, hopefully, check back in, and we will see who R.I.C.O decides to send out here against andend. And if andend can continue this streak here, keep Carbombnara alive, keep R.I.C.O sweating. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I will catch you all next time.